Well, this one's an interesting one. This is a 1998 Yamaha Grizzly 600 4x4 in almost perfect condition. But there's one major issue with it. It won't go over 20 miles an hour. See how fast we can get going. Full speed. I think we're going 10 miles an hour. Brand new air filter in there. Let's see, so they had it on. Let's see if anything comes out. Nothing's really coming out. That could be one potential problem. Probably getting zero gas. Let's see reserve. Reserve is better. It's a little foggy. Alright, definitely not white. It'll open, we should be right in this range, right in here. Let's see what we get. Cranker. That's pretty high. That's 170. Moving. That one's moving. This one back here we felt was moving. Yep. This one I'm suspect of. Nope. That one's moving too. It's coming. Holy. Cam chain, is that tight? Yep, cam chain is nice and tight. It's perfect. Alright, moment of truth. What does the timing look like? Oh, it's spot on. Look at that. Mark right there. Mark right there. Take a peek. Looking for any rips or holes. Car's all back together. There was nothing wrong with the carb at all. Alright, it's definitely better. It's going about 20 miles an hour now instead of 10. Well, we're back with part 2 on the 1998 Yamaha Grizzly 600. This thing is a pain in the butt. We cannot get this one figured out. So last video we spent 8 hours trying to diagnose this thing. If you guys watched the recap video before this video, you saw that we picked this thing up for 700 bucks. And the seller stated that this thing would not go over 10 miles an hour. We got back home, took it for a test drive. It went about 10 miles an hour going uphill, and about 12 miles an hour going downhill, when it should be going 55, 60. The acceleration was really slow, it was bogging pretty bad, and it would overheat. So we started diagnosing it, and we pretty much went through everything on this machine. So we started with the basics. We went through the fuel system. The fuel was a little foggy, we changed that out. We got the spark plug out, that was really black, we changed that out. We went through the carburetor, carburetor looked great. We went through the diaphragm, no rips or holes in the diaphragm. The jetting is stock and perfect. We actually adjusted the valves, those were perfect. The intake and the exhaust, so the clearance was absolutely perfect on those. We checked the timing, so we took off the cover here, the valve cover, got this thing to top dead center, checked the timing, and the dots on the cam sprocket were perfect. They were parallel with the surface of the head, so timing was correct, and the decompression mechanism was working as well in the engine. We then checked the clutch to make sure that was operating correctly, and the belt was going up and down in the primary and secondary clutch, so we know that was working properly. We jacked this thing up, made sure the wheels were spinning with the clutch. That looked good. That was not the issue. We checked the battery and the voltage regulator, and the battery is charging steadily at 13.5. It won't go over that, which is good. so we know that the voltage regulator is working properly. Battery is charged up to 12.6 volts, so we know that's good. We also tried to bypass the reverse switch on here. So the reverse switch is when you go into reverse, there's a limiter on there so you don't go too fast. That's working properly. We also tried to bypass the parking brake switch, which is right here. We know that's working because when you pull it in, you can start the machine in gear. When you release it, it won't start. So that switch is working properly. Yeah, that's pretty much all we checked. So that's kind of where we left this thing. We checked all those things and nothing really improved. The only thing that improved this machine was taking the air box off and running it without the air box, which technically gives it more air to the engine. So it's almost like it's starving for air. So that's kind of where we ended things, and then I asked you guys to leave suggestions on what you guys thought it would be that was causing the non-revving out and the slow speeds on this machine. And you guys left a lot of comments. The majority of people think that the problem is a clogged exhaust system. So you guys think that there's like either a mouse nest in here or the exhaust is clogged somehow with carbon. But yeah, we'll check that today first and see if you guys are correct. Another couple things you guys mentioned in the comments was the stator. You guys think that maybe the stator is the wrong one or that the guy installed it incorrectly. So the seller put a brand new stator on this before he sold it to me. The other thing you guys thought was maybe the problem was the CDI. I guess a lot of people who own these machines had problems with the CDIs, and they said they replaced CDIs and it solved the problem on their machine with it only going about 20 miles an hour. The other one was the wet clutch. I guess these have issues with the wet clutch after sitting for a while. We checked the clutch was good, but there's a clutch inside the engine that's a wet clutch, and if that doesn't work, then this machine won't go fast. Some people left comments on the 4x4 switch not working. I think this one is working because I can hear it go on and off. So you turn this machine on, you click this, you can hear it go into gear, and you can see the light up here. So that seems to be working. So I don't think that's an issue. And then a lot of people said that maybe it was the diff lock limiter. This one does not have diff lock on this machine, so it's definitely not that. The other thing we can check for is the magnets on the flywheel. A lot of guys mentioned that as well. Maybe a magnet came loose on the flywheel or broke, so we can check that too. So a couple different things to check today. Hopefully we can check everything and get this one running right by the end of the video. All right, we're going to just take off the muffler here. But first, let's just see if we can see anything in there. I don't see any mouse nest in there. It doesn't look like the cage is collapsed at all in there either. But we can take it off and see what it does without it on there. So it looks like a couple bolts hold it on up here. Then we can just disconnect the silencer from the exhaust pipe here. Look at right there, it disconnects. So let's get that off and we'll give it a shot. That off. I think it's just a clamp. Now I believe the pipe can come off. Yep. See if anything comes out of it. Nothing. We're gonna look down it, see if we can see anything. Doesn't look clogged in there. I don't think it's clogged, but we'll try it anyway. It's piped right now. Let's just look down this pipe. Yeah, that's definitely not clogged in there. All right. Well, we're gonna get everything hooked up and we'll start it up without the silencer on there, see if it revs out completely. was popping out the carb though. Let's put the air box back on and see if it revs up. I can see flames popping out the carb. That's really weird. Well, taking the silencer off did nothing for us. With the airbox back on, we're back to only going about 10 to 12 miles an hour on this thing, top speed. So it definitely wasn't the exhaust being plugged up, unfortunately. So everybody that guessed that in the comments wasn't the issue here. Well, it did the exact same thing with the exhaust off, so it definitely wasn't a clogged muffler on this thing, unfortunately. So we're gonna put that back on and on to the next potential issue. All right, another person mentioned that they had a bike that wouldn't run with a non-fully charged battery. So let's put a jumper on the battery and see if it revs out completely. But see what we get. Hear a change, but we'll go take it for a test drive just to confirm. All right, we rode this thing with the jumper pack on the back around the yard. Still only wants to go very slow, so that was definitely not the fix. All right, we've got the cap off right here. We set this thing to top dead center again just to check the valves since we ran this thing quite a while now. And I just want to make sure these are still open. They're clicking. Then I get the exhaust, yep. So those are all good. You can hear the clearance in there between the rocker and the valve. So none of the valves are staying open. So that's good. Just wanted to confirm that before we move on. All right, next thing we're gonna do is test the stator. So the seller said he put a brand new stator in from Amazon. I'm not sure which one he used, but he said it was for a Grizzly 600. So let's follow the wires back. It goes back to here. And we can test the pickup coil and then the windings on the stator. So the windings are going to be the brown and green, and then the pickup coil is going to be the red and white. Let's get that unplugged and do an ohm reading test on it. I've got the specs from the manual. Alright, so we can just disconnect this plug right here. There we go. Make sure those are all in there. You can see all the leads there. They're not pulled out. So all the wires should be making contact. So now what we're going to do is test the pickup coil first. We'll get our ohm meter out and check these. So the reading for the pickup coil should be between 450 and 561 ohms. And that's the red and the white wire. Let's test that. This screen here. Now we're gonna do the red and the white wire. So it doesn't matter which lead goes where, just as long as you're at red and white. All right, there's the white, here's the red. Let's see what we get. .587. You guys see that? 0.586. See if we're within the specs. It says 450 to 561. So we're a little bit high actually. Let's try it again. .587. And we shouldn't be going over 561. Interesting. So it's a little bit high. I don't know if that's because the bike is hot or what. But we're going white and red. Might let the bike cool off and try it again. .586. And we should be between 450 and 561, so it's definitely high. Let's check the green and the brown. So the green and the brown is for the coils on the actual stator. That rating should be between 270 and 330. So green and brown. Let's see what we get. Here we go. Green, brown. 374, just a little bit high. We're gonna let the ATV cool down and check the readings again. I don't think that stator should be hot. All right, engine is cooled down. Let's do another test on the stator. See what we get. All right, red and white first, here we go. 524, so we're between the 450 and the 561 ohms. So that checks out. Now we're going to go to the green and brown, which should be between 270 and 330. So green and brown, here we go. We are at 322, so 270 to 330. We are within range there. So with the ATV cooled down, the stator checks out. With it hot, it goes over. So I'm pretty sure you're supposed to check these when they're cold. So the cold readings come out good. All right, now that we know that the stator is fine and ohms out correctly, let's check the ignition coil. We're gonna start with the primary, and that should read between 0.5 and 2.5 ohms. So we're gonna set our ohms to the lowest setting here. I'm gonna check the positive lead here and the negative. That's what you wanna check here. So 1 to positive, 1 to negative. See what we get. Kind of jumping around. All right, we're at 0.5, 0.6 ohms. So we should be between 0.5 and 2.5 ohms. So we're perfect there on the primary. Let's check the secondary. The secondary, we want to check from the negative post here to the spark plug wire. So we can take off the boot, and this reading should be between 2,500 ohms and 5,000 ohms. Let's set it to 20K and we can check it. Jumping around a little bit here. Let's see if I can get a good reading here. 2.76. So that's 2,750 ohms. So we are right in that range of 2,500 to 5,000 ohms. So the coil checks out, at least the ohm reading test checks out. All right, ignition coil looked fine, stator looked fine. Another thing we can check with the stator is the ignition timing. So I don't know if that's adjustable on here or not, but we can take off this cover here. That's where the stator sits, and we can check that. Make sure everything's within spec there. And then we can also test the flywheel magnets, see if those are broken. Those are a couple things people mentioned. So let's drain out the oil first, and then we can take off this cover. All right, let's go underneath and see where the drain plug is. I think it's right there. So we can get that off and see what oil comes out of there. See if it's all chunky. Oh, jeez. That's a lot of oil. Well, we'll inspect that after it drains, see what's in there. So, taking a look at the cap, a couple little findings here. So we zoom in, you can see there's a bunch of gasket maker that was caught by the cap here. Got blue gasket maker, gray gasket maker. There's a little piece of something here. I'm not sure what that is. Kind of looks like a clutch plate to me. See, like that's the color of like a clutch plate, I feel like. See if it breaks apart. Yeah, it's kind of like that cork material. And there's another hard little piece in here. It's black. Yeah, I think that's just gasket maker or rubber or something. No metal, which is good. So that checks out. We'll clean that out. And then in the filter, same thing. Just a bunch of gasket material. And then the oil looks pretty decent. We're gonna take a magnet and see if we catch anything. But there's just a bunch of gasket material floating around. See if we got anything. Nothing. All right, well that's good. So, bottom end bearings, transmission, everything should be fine. There's no chunks at all in there. All right, we're by the stator side. Let's get this shifter off first. Looks like there's two bolts holding it on here. Alright, we can kind of put that off to the side here. Cover coming off here. This was leaking anyway. A bunch of oil. So we probably would have had to take it off anyway. Here's where that blue gasket maker that was in the oil came from. You can see there's a bunch of blue gasket maker coming out all over the side cover. You probably need to zip this off too. So that has washer, lock washer on there. This can pull out like that. Alright, now this cover can come off, hopefully. On there pretty good. All the bolts are off. There we go. It's coming. Getting stuck over here. There we go. Wants to come. Can't get a good grip on it. There we go. Alright, yeah, that gasket's all broken. That's why that wasn't sealing. Here's the new stator in there. Check that out. There's the pickup coil in there. So it doesn't look like any of that's adjustable at all. Bearing feels good. So there's only 1, 2, 3 bolts it can go into. And there's the pickup coil. That looks like that's on there correctly too. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything wrong with that at all. Alright, we can check the flywheel. See if that's on there correctly. We can check and see if that woodruff key is sheared. I don't think it is. We can look right in here and just check that quick. Alright, taking the flashlight, looking down in here, I can see the woodruff key is not sheared off. And we double checked it by putting the cover back on, putting this top dead center, and seeing if the piston was at the top of the cylinder. That's a good check to do. And it was at the very tippy top. So we know that this line right here, line is in the correct position, which means that the flywheel is in the correct position on the crank. There's no way that moved. It is sparking at the right time based on the flywheel. So that all checks out. Everything looks good on this side. Another check we can do is to take something metal and just see if the flywheel is magnetic. And as you can see, it sticks right to it. Very heavy magnet. So all the magnets feel good. And sometimes those magnets can break in here, but I don't see any delamination coming from here or here or in the back here. So that all looks good. We wanted to confirm that the stator was in the correct orientation here, and based on the picture from eBay, there's a bunch of them like this, you can see that the stator is actually positioned correctly in there, and then the pickup coil is as well. The pickup oil is stationary, it cannot move. It just gets bolted down by these 2 bolts, and the actual unit here is attached to this metal bracket, and that is not adjustable. So you cannot adjust the ignition timing on this machine. Everything looks good there. I don't think that has any issues with it whatsoever. All right, we're on the right side of the machine here. A lot of people in the comments said that they had the same machine and that they were having similar issues, and they checked the wet clutch and that was junk. So that's what we're gonna do right now. We're gonna take off this cover. We're first gonna check the primary and secondary, take those apart, make sure everything's good there. Check out the belt, make sure that's good. And then behind the primary is the wet clutch. So the wet clutch controls pretty much the primary. So what happens is that wet clutch spins in there and then it expands and grabs onto like a, kind of like a brake hub type thing. And then that is attached to the primary. So that spins the primary. So if that doesn't grab that hub piece, it won't spin the clutch and the clutch won't work properly. And that's where you get that slipping from. Alright, so the cellar side inside here was really gunked up before, but he greased everything up. And he said he put a new belt on. So let's get the belt off first. We can take a bolt, zip those in to loosen this secondary up. Just going to twist this in and zip that on until it releases that belt. Stick it. There we go. Now this belt should be loose. There we go. Let's check out the belt. So the seller said this was brand new. There's definitely some worn out areas on the belt. It looks like it's wearing properly though. The sides are tapered in just a little bit, but they're the exact same angle here. So that looks good. I can't tell if that's a new belt or not. It might just be a really cheap one and it cracked already down there. See that? I don't know. I guess it was new. I don't think there's any markings on it at all. Typically that means it's probably a cheap one. Yeah, no markings on the belt at all. All right. Take this back out. Next thing we want to check for on the clutches is if the surface here is smooth. And here. We don't want any ridges here. There's a little lip right there. Nothing horrible, it's still smooth. And same with the secondary, looks smooth. Right down there you can see the little lip. Right there, there's a little bit of a lip. But it's not very big at all. Same with the other side, there's a very small lip. So those look good. Let's get the secondary off first and then we'll work on the primary. It's off there. Got your nut. It's gonna slide off. Yeah, that's all greased up. Brake has to be pushed down. Get this off here. Alright. We can take that apart and look at all that. But it feels smooth. Pretty good. All right, and then behind this cover, that's gonna be where the wet clutch is. So this whole piece, this cover piece, has to come off. You take that off, and then you can get to the bolts for the wet clutch here. See all the grease in there. So seller definitely greased it up. All right, let's take a look. Let's take a look at the weights here. Take those out, take a peek, make sure those are all good. All right, all the weights are out. Now we're taking a look where the weights sit, and we're feeling for any grooves. These definitely have a couple. You can feel like where it kind of divots in, but it's not very bad. You can kind of see where it kind of sat there for a long time. So everything looks good. There's no big gouges or anything. And this was just greased up, so we're gonna put the weights back in. And what happens is you are supposed to grease these with like an 1/8 inch of grease all the way around, put them back in. And as this rotates, it'll push that grease out to the sides, which it has done. So we can just put these weights back in. Doesn't matter which direction you put them, just as long as they're all in there. So these are all going back in. And that all checks out. Then we can take a look at the sliders, see what those look like. So you can see those are all decent as well. None of them broken, none of them missing. So that looks really good. Bottom side looks good, so this can go back on. So I don't see any problems with the primary here. See how smooth that is, pushing up and down. And then you can wipe around that O-ring a little bit. There's an O-ring around here. And if that's not sealing properly, it has the spins, grease will puff out of there, and that won't be good. So we can get this back on. Doesn't matter how this goes back on, as long as it's sealed by that O-ring. Then taking a look at the secondary again, we saw that the surfaces in here were perfect. There's nothing wrong with that. Spring is connected, not worn out. And then it looks like anti-seize or grease was put in here for easy takeoff. But yeah, we saw that these were pushing apart when we put the screw in here. So that was moving, and then we actually ran this thing before in the last video and saw that the clutch was expanding good and the belt was dropping down on the secondary, and then the primary was actually lifting up. So we know that the clutches were working. We'll check. This plate can come off. Now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I think 10 of them that come out for this cover. Looks like he did check the wet clutch here. Yeah, it definitely has been taken off before, so it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. All right, here we go, moment of truth. Let's see. Oh, I broke the gasket. Shoot. Huh. Looks pretty much brand new. Look at that. That looks perfect. Yeah, that looks pretty much brand new. Brand new gasket. See if that one-way bearing was working here. Let's get that nut off there. So I believe this is reverse thread. Let's try it. Maybe not. It's not reverse thread. So there's the nut that came off. Alright, this should just pull right out of here. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. So what happens is, as this rotates, these pieces here spring out and then grab on to this drum here. So there's a one-way bearing there. It's going to go into. As you can see, it spins in there like that. So you can spin like that. But as you go this way, see how it grabs? But if you go this way, it doesn't. So that one-way bearing is working. And that spins the shaft for the primary. So that's working properly. Huh. I don't think that was a problem. It looks brand new. So I'm guessing either the seller or the person before him looked up online, or somebody recommended that he change out the wet clutch. And it looks like he already did that. So it looks like he's been chasing this problem for a long time. It definitely is not a clutch related problem. Everything looks perfect in there. Just checking out the bearing here. That looks good. Definitely lots of oil getting to it. And then transmission shaft. A couple people in the comments said it's the transmission getting hung up. And neutral, look at that. Really smooth. So that's not an issue at all either. I don't know, everything checks out. Everything's looking good. You know, the only thing we didn't check is the CDI. All right, let's take a look at that CDI. See if we can see any visible damage done to it. So it's right back there. Zoom in a little bit. We'll unplug that and then get that disconnected. See what's going on. Maybe it burnt up when the stator went. I don't know. Alright, here's the back side of it. Doesn't look horrible. That's supposed to be coming out the back like that. We're looking for any cracks in this at all. I don't see anything. Too bad there's not a way to test it, because these are like 350 bucks on eBay. So we might reach out to our good friends at Power Sports Nation and see if they have a CDI in stock that we can temporarily use, and then I can send it back to them if it doesn't work. I think that might be the best option, because spending 350 bucks to have it not be the issue, that would suck. Well, we are going to try to order up a CDI for this thing, swap that out next video, and hopefully that fixes our problem. If that doesn't, it's most likely something wrong with the carb, like something internally wrong with it. We went through the whole carb, everything looks good. Correct jets, everything's working. All the passages are cleared. Diaphragm's moving up and down, no rips in the diaphragm. But there could be something, wrong internally here. This copper pipe coming up isn't broken, doesn't look like. Everything else looks good, but we can try swapping in a good used carb to see if that fixes their problem. Maybe somebody that rebuilt it at one point put something wrong in it that we don't know about, and it could just be something simple like that. But I'm really leaning towards that CDI. It seems like the RPMs are not raising the way they should, and most likely that's a CDI problem. Yeah, I think the stator burnt up and possibly like shorted out the CDI or something, causing issues. So hopefully the people that left the comment about the CDI saying it's a bad CDI, hopefully you guys are correct. We will find out next video. All right, we're working on the 1977 Kawasaki K100. So last video on this bike, we picked it up for $100, really good deal, but it did not run or drive and it would not shift, is what the seller said. So we actually diagnosed this thing, got it to run, but we took it for the first ride and it wouldn't move. So we were thinking there was something wrong with the shifter, wasn't going into gear. We took apart the clutch side and we found that the clutch plates were just disintegrated. They were just gone basically and packed in the engine here. So we ended up getting new clutch plates for it. Those are soaking in oil. They've been sitting for about an hour. So we'll let those soak for a little bit longer. Then we're gonna install those. And hopefully this bike will move now. We don't know until we install the clutch. All right, let's go ahead and install the clutch. So there's a little washer that goes on first like that. Then you've got the spring that goes on next, just like that. Then you've got your basket here. So this is grooved out here. It's gonna line up with the notch there. All the way if it doesn't. So let's just see. Get that spring lined up here. All right, and then you've got another washer that goes on right here, just like that. This piece goes on here. And then you've got your inner basket that goes on. But we need to actually get the clutch plates lined up first here. All right, clutch plate going on here. These are the new ones going in. Just like that. Now these are gonna go on. You have to get those all to line up properly. A little tricky to do. Luckily there's not a whole lot of them. So while I try to line these up, one like that. So now we've got that little inner hub piece we have to put on. That washer came off. So now this piece has to go on. This all has to line up perfectly. Here. I think we got her. C-clip is going to hold that down. We've got our springs that go on here. The bolts. basically it. All right, then last piece, that little guy right there goes right there. All right, let's clean up this cover. You can see it's absolutely filthy. That's all the broken up clutch plates down there. Just ground up to a powder. Now that's all cleaned out. We can get the gasket off. It's coming off pretty easily. Let's put a little gasket maker on here to hold it on in place. So it won't fall when we're installing that cover here. All right, clutch is hooked up. That's working. We've got our throttle hooked up to the oil pump here. That's working. Carb hooked up, so we can get our cover back on here. All right, cover's back on. Let's get some oil in it. This one takes 600 milliliters. Get our funnel in. Using some 10W40 wet clutch oil. A little bit more. That should be good. All right, let's see if she fires up and moves here. This should be interesting. All right, started right up. Been sitting for about a week. Idle's good. All right, now will it move? Well, looks like the clutch plates fixed their problem. That is awesome. So we picked this thing up for 100 bucks. We stuck another 55 bucks into it for the clutch plates and the gasket. And now this thing's good to go. One thing I did notice while riding it was it's a little boggy on takeoff, and you can see all the smoke puffing out of it. I've got this thing mixed 40-to-1, plus the oil pump is working. So now that we know the oil pump is working, we can run straight gas, and that should take care of that problem. But yeah, she was running pretty rich. Once you get into the higher RPMs, it really revved out and sounded really good. And I made sure to shift through all the gears, and each gear is grabbing, and everything is good to go. So this one is pretty much finished up. All the lights are working, shifting, starts right up first kick. So not too bad for 155 bucks. Pretty happy we decided to buy this one and fix it up. And I'm really happy it wasn't a transmission problem. Ended up being a simple clutch problem. All right, so a couple of videos ago, I put my PO box for you guys to send me stuff, and I went there the other day and I got a bunch of packages. So let's kind of go through those, see what we got, and I'll thank everybody at the end here. So, looks like, let's open this first. Maybe there's a tag in there. Ooh, a couple towels, nice. Can always use those. It says, let's see here. Just want to say thank you. Your channel is a huge inspiration. From Restro Thunder Road. Thank you very much for sending these. I can always use towels. And the P.O. box. And if you guys want to see the address, that's the address for the P.O. box. So it's 100 W Main Street, P.O. Box 32. If you guys want to send anything. I know people like sending stuff, so that's my P.O. box. I know a lot of you guys are asking for it. And then the same guy sent this. Let's see what these are. Oh, these are nice. Magnetic bowls. Cool. Put those right on top of the toolbox here. Those are great. Thank you very much. We can always use those. Those will come in handy. Let's see. Oh, a bunch of gloves I wear. I was just running low on those. Perfect. Let's see. What does the gift receipt say? Again, just want to say thank you. Your channel is a huge inspiration. From Restro Thunder Road. So same guy sent these as well. Thank you very much. You didn't have to send that much. Holy cow. Definitely be using those. And then what else? Oh, we gotta have Ben try that on. Oh, that's funny. Let's see who sent this. I think it was the same guy. Let's see. Yeah, it's the same guy. So, that is awesome. Should we go get Benny and try that on? We'll have to do that. Dave sent me these. This is a lot of stuff. Really nice punch here. I think this is a gasket scraper, possibly. I have to call him. He left a note, a really nice note, and said to call him, so I have to call him yet. He sent all this stuff. Set of wrenches. That was really, really nice of him. Motion Pro tire irons. That's really nice. Thank you very much. And we've got some razor blades. Let's open that with a razor blade. See what's in there. Yep, just a bunch of blades. That's really nice. I use those for gaskets all the time. What else we got in here? Oh, another one. Couple things like that. Wow, great. So Dave, thank you very much for sending that stuff. That was very thoughtful. Really appreciate it. And I really appreciate everybody who sent stuff. Let's go get Ben and try this on. good. Oh, that's funny. Can you say thank you, Ben? That's a nice hat. That's a real nice hat. Can't tell if he likes it or not. You look good, Ben. You look real good. Well, I think we're going to end the video there. Hope you guys enjoyed. We are going to order up a couple parts for different machines. And hopefully next video we can get that Grizzly 600 running right. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. Stay tuned for next video. And until next time, we are out. Hey Vin, how you like your new hat?